What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, and we are going through the book of John. We are starting a new set. We have finished a little bit of the discourse of who Jesus is, which was very, very powerful, man. Because just knowing a little bit more about Jesus is what we're here to do. It's called Trust in Jesus Ministries. The more you know about Jesus, the more you trust him. But we are engaging in another sign, another miracle we're going to see Jesus do. So check out John chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. Stop the tape if you haven't read it yet. Go ahead and see what it's about. We'll come back and discuss the 4 questions. If you've already read it, then we are going to, no further ado, I want to say actually first that we had a good time this weekend at the Nomad Festival, Northwest Nomads. It was great. Had a good service, and God blessed us. And we got to speak with a lot of people, meet new people, engage with old friends. So things were awesome, man. God is good. So thanks for your prayers, and thanks for praying for us, and just God did good, as he always does, though. Anyway, now, without further ado, let's jump on into it, man. So what's going on in the narrative here? Well, this is the feeding of the 5,000. This is one of the most famous miracles. Matter of fact, it's actually one of the miracles that's in every gospel account. The only one that is in every gospel account. This is a famous one, feeding 5,000. But it says that Jesus took off, man, to the other side of the sea, and crowds were following him, man, because of the things Jesus was doing. They saw him healing the sick. They saw him healing the lame. They saw all these miracles Jesus was doing. They want to follow him, man. They was like, who is this guy with this power? You know what I mean? And so they just chased after him. But Jesus and his disciples escaped to the mountains. And then he sat with his disciples on the mountains, and probably to teach them, talk to them a little bit. But as he was teaching him and he was talking to him, he said he looked up, man. And this kind of reminds me of the same type of idea that happened with the Samaritan woman. It says that lift up your eyes and see that the field is ripe for harvest, because the Samaritans was coming in. And now Jesus does the same thing as he lifts up his eyes. The harvest is ripe as these crowds are coming to him. And so, yeah, he sees these people and he's like, let's get ready. After that, it says that they need to feed them. Jesus is like, man, they look a bit hungry. And I'm assuming, lining it up with all of the gospel accounts, that they probably were taught. Jesus sat down, taught them, preached, and for a while. And so they had to have a potluck afterward. And so Jesus is like, hey, how are we going to feed them, man? Now, he asked his disciples this, but it says that it was to test them. This testing, man, this thing that Jesus does, because he already knew what he was about to do. Jesus knows what's going on, man. He knew how he was going to handle the situation. And sometimes it's funny because application time, which I'll do later again, but it's like sometimes we worry about the small things. And this is no small matter, though. So it could be the big things as well. But Jesus, our God, he knows what he's about to do. He knows how to handle the situation, and he's about to handle it. He's about to get it done. Sometimes we get in the way, but he knows what's going down. And so he does this to test us, to pull out our character, to bring out our trust in him, so that we can realize that he is the one in whom we should rely on for all things. But anyway, Jesus says to him, he says, hey, how we gonna feed these folks? And then one of the disciples is like, bro, it's going to be like a year's worth of wages in order to feed all these, just a little bit. He worried. He concerned about the situation. Did he pass or fail? At first, I would say that he failed the test. He didn't rely on the proficiency of Jesus. Because what's he supposed to say? He's supposed to say, oh, man doesn't live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. That is probably not something that normal people would say, though. So maybe he didn't fail the test. Maybe he was just thinking like a normal person. The next person was Andrew, and he was like, man, there's a kid, a little boy over there, man, and he's got some barley loaves, which is the poorest of the bread, and then he's got some little bitty fish. That's kind of what it says in the Greek, is little bitty fish. And so he's got these barley loaves and these fish. He's like, but what is that for so many people? How much is that for all these people? So did he pass the test? He's like, well, at least he brought something to Jesus. He was like, Jesus, there's a guy here But then in the end, he's like, but that ain't going to work. It's not going to happen. Did he pass the test? At first, again, I would say, maybe not. Maybe not. But then Jesus and his thing, he's like, man, let's get this bread and pass it out. And so he gets it, passes it out, and starts to feed the people because he tells the disciples to tell all the men to sit down. Tell all the men to sit and get ready for a meal. We don't see any hesitation in the disciples. They go and they tell the men to sit and get prepared for a meal. So if I was to say, did they pass the test? As they continue to see in the test, the character of the disciples came out, which is their trust in Jesus, right? Because what happened is Jesus said something, and instead of saying, well, I don't know though anymore, when he said do it, the disciples did it because they knew Jesus was going to take care of it. Their rabbi was going to take care of it. So did they pass the test? I would say they did. I would say whenever Jesus gave directive, they did it. Now, after they sat down, man, it says that they fed the 5,000. Everybody had their full. Oh, they were full. You know what I mean? From the little amount of fish and barley they had, it says they had their full. It was like a banquet, a feast, a potluck. After this great sermon, probably Jesus preached, man, people were just listening and amazed by it. And then he fed them this great and lavish meal. You see, when Jesus does something, man, he does it to the fullest. He doesn't just give you a little bit. He's like just enough to eat because he wants you to have all of it, everything to make you full, to make you feel. And so he did that, and it describes the amount left over was 12 baskets. That's more than they started with. So the end result was greater than what everybody had imagined from the beginning. Like the hopelessness that they felt when thinking about trying to feed this large crowd, how much money it was going to cost, how much food it was going to take. Well, all those were dim. They were broken down in the sight of Jesus as he did and prepared for all of those people. Yeah, it's pretty, it's a pretty amazing miracle. That's a pretty amazing miracle. So what can we see about God in this picture? I think we can see the lavishness of God as a giver. See, Jesus didn't just give you enough to survive. He overly and abundantly gave. So much so that the people were full. I can imagine them just like picking their teeth, that was good. That fish, bro, that was on fire, man. Filled because of what Jesus had done. But not only that, this is a picture of Jesus being the one who fills. He is the provider. And so God is a provider. He is the one whom we can go to when we need things. What does this say about man? Well, I think it says about us that we should recognize where our provision comes from. And that's everybody. Even though as a Christian, we should recognize and see this, and I pray that we do, but everybody should realize that God is the gift giver. It should be something that should be on our mind. And so as we live in this life and we walking through these days and we find that we're in need, we should go to Jesus. When we find that we are necessary of help, we should turn to Jesus. That should be our first reaction because we recognize he's the provider. Well, how can we apply these truths to our lives? Well, the first question I have to ask you is where do you look for your provision? Where do you look for who do you look to when you need? Because if it's not Jesus, then we're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. And then how much do we trust in Jesus? And I know that's the big thing here is we want to trust in him more. We want to place our faith in him more. We want to rely on him more. And so the question is, how much do you rely on him? You see, when we have problems that seem overwhelmingly out of a league for us, that we can't even comprehend or contemplate how to answer the questions to those things that are going on in our life, do we turn to Jesus? Will we pass the test when he says do something? Will we just do it? Even though we think that there's no way out, that there's no way to be able to take over or overcome or win in the situation, when we read the scriptures or the Spirit moves us in a way and a directive to take, are we going to take it? Because that's truly trusting him. So today, man, just think about that and contemplate on it and realize and know that Jesus is the lavish giver. I appreciate you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.